Hi guys, this is our science versus pseudoscience video. You have a companion sheet that goes along with this where there's a couple of answers. First of all, we've talked in class about what science is, but what is pseudoscience? Well, the prefix pseudo means false, and so basically pseudoscience means false science, or science that doesn't have, or something that's called science that doesn't really have scientific backing. So check out some of these old cigarette ads where they're kind of are saying that, doctors say these things, and so people might think that if a doctor is saying these things that they have scientific backing, but we know now that these things that the doctors are supposedly saying do not have scientific backing. So that would be called pseudoscience. So then what makes something real science? Well, first of all, real scientific research includes extensive testing and retesting. So not just testing something once, but testing it over and over and seeing if you come to the same conclusions. Also, real scientific research has clear methods, and those methods are potentially replicable, which means that if I read a scientific research paper and it explains how to do something, I should be able to replicate those methods and get basically the same results. Now that may take a lot of resources and a lot of time, but if I wanted to, that potential is there. Scientific claims are supported by evidence, not just by someone's opinion. So just because a doctor supports something doesn't necessarily mean that there is scientific evidence supporting it. Real science builds on previous research, and that's how we progress in science, is we take what we already know and then we explore beyond that to what we don't know. Scientific research is peer-reviewed, which means that other experts in the field of science will look at the work of a scientist and critique it. And that way, mistakes can be caught, and that research can be made better by the help of a scientist's peers. Objectivity is a tough thing in science. Science strives for objectivity, but objectivity is very difficult for humans to achieve because we are human. We have emotions. We have a lot of things in our lives that are subjective. But scientists really try to minimize any influence from their emotions and their personal beliefs in their research. So striving toward objectivity. Some reputable sources for science would be one where the scientist has degrees in the area of expertise. You don't want to be looking to someone who's paid to make certain claims for your science sources. So some generally reliable science sources are peer-reviewed journal articles. Remember, that's when a scientist gives his research or her research to peers, so other scientists, and they review it and they critique it and give their feedback before the article is published in the journal. Also, university science faculty are relatively reliable sources. Now, sometimes those faculty have blogs or their own personal websites where it's more opinion, and those wouldn't be so reliable. But when it's a university science page with science information on it, that is generally reliable. There's also government scientists in different government organizations such as the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency. The USGS is the United States Geological Survey. The NSF is the National Science Foundation. And NOAA is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And their websites have pretty good, reliable information about different areas of science related to the United States. Generally unreliable sources are magazines or journals without the peer review. So this is when people can publish something but other scientists haven't critiqued it. Now, sometimes magazines or journals will have summaries of longer articles that are in peer-reviewed journals, and those can be a good place to start to get kind of a summary of research that's been done, but then you should go to the primary source to get the details on that science information. Editorials are people's opinions, so they are generally unreliable sources for basic scientific information. Wikipedia sometimes does have reliable information, but just about anybody can modify it, so in general, not a reliable source. I do go to Wikipedia sometimes to begin my search on something, to get some really just general information, kind of as a jumping off point to help me get ideas for what I might search or some people that I might search for that are stated as experts in the field. So it can be a good starting place. And then paid advertisements are generally unreliable sources because the person's getting paid to say it and it's not necessarily solid science. So you should have your video companion sheet where you, it's the guided notes to go along with this video, and on that you should have answered what is pseudoscience. You should have named 3 characteristics of real science, listed 3 reliable sources for science information, and 3 unreliable sources for science information. So if you haven't done that yet, please do it now. Have a great night.